Hi, everybody. John Farian here with Live Large Universe, ready for another episode of Live Large Universe, just like we said. Ryan Ostrom here, Norman Hansen here. How are you gentlemen doing tonight?
Doing
Doing
good.
fantastic.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So it is, what is it, the first weekend in April. And normally, you guys and me here in Washington State are still kind of in the middle of our riding season. And I would say that, man, this season, probably more than any I've ever had in the 11 years I've lived in Washington, is wrapping up fast. I was just out for kind of a, I don't even know if I'll call it a final ride yet, because I think I might still sneak out for a ride or two, maybe up a Bear Paw or somewhere fun in a few weeks. But it's really winding down here. So Norman, how about you? When was your last ride? I heard you were just out yesterday, weren't you?
Yep, yeah, I was just out yesterday. We went up to Baker NRA and losing a lot of snow up there. Uh, a lot of riding gravel because they still have a snow
Yeah.
pile up, and
Yep.
then just
It
tons of
is.
gravel. It's
It
not
is
good. Oh, one second
melting,
here.
melting fast, melting fast. So,
Yeah,
how
yeah.
about you, Ryan? When was your last ride in? Has it been a few days or a week or so, or when was your last sneak up to the mountain?
I don't even remember when the last time I rode was.
Well, both of you son of a guns have a view of Mount Baker out your back door, basically. I know, Ryan, you're just
And,
across the street, it seems like. And Norman, I saw a picture you shared that you're across the street. So you guys are like literally back door of some of the best riding here in Washington State. That's amazing.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, it's absolutely fantastic. I'm literally a 20-minute drive from NRA Trailhead. I mean,
I'm a bit
it's right
jealous.
there.
And people are jealous of me when I tell them it's 45 minutes to an hour. You know, on a good day, I can
Yeah.
get up there 45 minutes, but it's usually an hour or more to get up to my closest snow park up I-90. But with that, let's get and remind everybody who's watching here as you guys are coming in. Let's get in the comments and remind all of you that you need to let us know where you're watching from. I see Todd Swing is here from Plymouth, Minnesota. We've got Snowmobile Wisconsin here from Wisconsin. Imagine that. With Snowmobile, Wisconsin. A guy named Dave. He's been on the show before. Appreciate you there. Billy Siebert, also been on the show before. We got some past, guests on here watching, and we got other people rolling in too. But if everybody can go in the comments, let us know where you're watching from. And please share the show, because when we get a great information, great stories to share, the way we make sure that we get that message out is through sharing out the show. And if you share, you guys are going to be entered in to win this backcountry first aid kit from Mountain Lab. So Mountain Lab has got all of the products that you've ever wanted to have in your tunnel bag, and they've thrown down, given us a first aid kit here. Just for sharing this out, we'll enter you guys in to win that. So come on in, settle in, share the show out. Let us know in the comments where you're watching from. And I'd love to know, when was your last snowmobile ride? Because I know we're right at the end of the season and just getting ready to wrap it up. So, wow. Here we go, guys. You ready for this?
Yeah.
Sure.
I think we are. I think we are. Ryan Ostrom, let's start with you, sir. Why don't you just give us a little bit of knowledge of, like, introduce yourself. Or who's Ryan? Give us a little background on maybe where you work, what you do, where you're from, all that kind of stuff. And then we'll dive a little bit later into your snowmobile background.
Yeah, so I am in Cedar Woolley, east of Cedar Woolley, actually. So, like we were saying before, about 20 minutes from the NRA Snow Park. I started snowmobiling in 1997.
Okay.
Yeah, and obviously a lot of things have changed since then,
Yeah.
and made a lot of great friendships and relationships, and learned a lot and gotten better and gotten worse over the years, and just love it.
That's awesome. And I'll just do a quick shout out here too, Ryan. I consider you a close friend of mine too. I've really appreciated getting to know you and your wife Sheila over the last, geez, have you been keeping track how many years it's been? I don't know. It's at least 5 years, if not 8 years or 10 years. I don't know. I've lived here 11 years and feel like I've known
Yeah.
you most of that time, at least a little bit. But you and I got to go to Jackson, Wyoming. Was it a year ago? A little over a year ago. We went to Jackson, Wyoming, to the hill climbs together. You and your wife and my wife and I, along with another gentleman, Kevin Hedstrom from Dillon, Montana, joined us too at the same place. But so thank you, Ryan, for coming on. Appreciate your friendship and appreciate you being on the show tonight here representing OK Riders. We're going to get into that in a little bit too. So, all right, Norman Hansen, give us a little lowdown on a little bit about you.
Let's see. I've lived in Concrete, Washington, my whole life, which everybody always asks, well, where's Concrete? It's 40 minutes east of Cedar Woolley. So quite a ways out here in the woods, but yeah, Mount Baker's my front yard, and I started riding, I think, in 2016.
You're still
And
pretty green by a lot of standards, then,
very
right?
well, by very green by a lot of standards, because I really didn't get into it like full time until last year. Kind of the season before that, but we don't really count that. It was only like 3 rides. So
Very good, very good. Okay. Well, you guys have started this little Facebook page called OK Riders, right? And so, why don't we dive in a little bit of, first of all, like, where did that come from? Where did the name come from? And what are you trying to accomplish with it? And I'll tee it up to both of you and let you guys decide first. Ryan or
Yeah.
Norman? Like, let go with
Yeah,
Ryan
so
first.
we both started riding a lot together. We get along great, and we just thought that there's a gap in the content world of people trying to relate to okay riders, normal people.
Yeah, everyday average riders, we'll call them, right?
Yeah. So I mean, it seems like there's a never-ending supply of people who want to be, let's say, professional snowmobilers, or however you want to phrase that, doing all kinds of crazy things. And at some point, I think that you're probably going to get hurt if you just, it's like doing moto freestyle. There's a reason they don't do it on X Games anymore, is because all the tricks that you could do have been done, and the next thing would be super dangerous. So that's kind of how I feel about it. Yeah, so we get along great. We go snowmobiling a lot. We're trying to bring a new perspective. I'm 50 years old. Norman's 27, so a broad diversity in age, but we still get along great and have a great time riding, and complement each other with our weaknesses and strengths. And yeah, so we're started a little podcast. We took a little break on that for the last month or so, but we're going to start doing them now outside in Norman's field, which has the Mount Baker in the background. So I think that'll be cool.
Yeah, no, very good. So, Norman, give us a little bit of perspective from you on the concept of OK Riders, and maybe how Ryan sucked you into it, or how did you suck Ryan into it? Like, tell me a little bit of background, and what was the moment that the two of you sat down and thought, we should do some kind of a content or podcast or something, and what are we going to call it? Like, I want to hear Norman's perspective on this too, of kind of like, what was that conversation like, coming up with the concept and the name, and what made you think, like, I think this could work?
yeah, I mean, so I'm not gonna lie. I've been being that I'm 27. I'm of the influence of social media my entire life, pretty much.
Yeah.
One of my biggest idols is on YouTube is Cletus McFarland. I mean, the guy's 29 years old. He's 2 years older than me.
Yeah.
I got a lot of work to do, because that guy owns a freaking racetrack. I mean,
I know, right?
Let's be real. But we're in America. You could do anything you want here if you set your mind to it. Well, Ryan and I were we were out riding last season, and we were talking, and we're like, we should be recording all this. Like what are we doing? And it didn't really come to fruition until this fall, and we started talking more about it. And then we went on a ride, and we just took some GoPros and just recorded it.
Yeah.
And that was our first video. Was it Hearts Pass Struggle Bus, I think is the name.
Yep.
But anyway, the name came from, we were trying to come up with a name, and we were just like, dude, what do we call this? Like, we're just kind of, we're not great or anything, and they're like, but we're okay.
Hey,
so we're like,
it's okay to be okay. Isn't that the moral of the story
here? We should just call it OK Riders. Like,
yeah.
It just works.
Frankly, it's brilliant. Like, I mean, I agree with you guys totally. Is the idea and the concept of, like, what are we trying to, do in this industry? Like, you're right. There's a lot of people who are trying to, like, break into the industry. Everybody either wants to be a quote unquote a pro rider or whatever. And it's, I kind of, in a little bit of a different way, think about, like, even this show and this podcast, right? Like, people ask me still to this day, like, how in the heck are you going to do some kind of a content about safety and education? I'm like, well, you make it fun and entertaining. That's how you do it, right? Yeah. And it's like, same thing for you guys too. It's like, you don't have to, like, reinvent the wheel, and you don't have to mimic and copycat everybody else. The part I love about this is, like, I've watched you guys' podcast, I've watched your content and show, and it's just two friends being, snowmobile buddies, right? Is all it comes down to. and not trying to be anything you're not, and literally just trying to make a difference in the sport, and kind of just the conversations in the garage about, like, oh, where's Chris Brandt today? What's he up to? And, shout out to all these different podcasters, and who are these punks doing podcasts with headphones? What the heck is all that about? Like, I still love whenever you guys called me out for that a little bit too. I don't know. I took it personal when you did, and I called you and explained, like, well, this is why we use headphones. And then during our test, it was like, what's all that?
I didn't
What's all
know
that
you
feedback?
called Ryan.
What's all that? What's all that feedback? What's all that feedback? Oh, that's because I wasn't wearing my headphones. That's what it's about. Anyway, we're just having a little fun. And that's what we're doing right now. Is just 2 guys, 3 guys now having a little fun, having a good time here. But Ryan, anything else you want to add around kind of the concept of OK riders, maybe goals? Like, what are you guys trying to accomplish long term? Maybe take that if you would.
Yeah. So, I mean, we've kind of both committed to see it through for at least 5 years.
Okay.
So we'll just, at that point, decide, whether or not we want to keep going or not, I guess. And I think that's the biggest, hardship of doing anything like this is just, you do it for a few months, you get a little bit of excitement, and then, the work comes in and it's like, man, you have to keep going like you do in your show. I mean, I remember when you started, it's like, wow, it just takes so much work and effort to do what you do.
Yeah. And,
I like the idea of not being live so you can edit it if there's something or whatever. But yeah. So as far as goals, I think, just relating to the normal rider, and trying to be entertainment. I mean, we're going to do it anyway. We're going to be out there.
Exactly.
So we just have to, record it, and, maybe we can help some things and also bring up some safety things. I know you're a big avalanche advocate or awareness advocate. There's other safety things that we think too, like that don't involve avalanches that are still a huge danger in snowmobiling. So I think bringing awareness to that is something that we want to do.
Awesome.
And then just being in the snowmobile community, doing what we do.
Very good. Norman, what do you think? You think back to some of the content you've created. I mean, there's a couple of moments where, I'll touch on 2 things. I know one was one that I remember you guys bouncing back and forth, just laughing your butts off about how some little clip of you bouncing through a creek up at Anderson Watson got like how many thousands of views or something like that. Tell us a little bit about that. Tell us a little bit about that story and like how ironic all that is, right? So.
Oh, Ryan, you got to remind me which one was it that was.
Well, that's the one.
Viral.
Well, there's 2. There's the one where you're like going through the mud.
Pulling the Arctic Cat off of the. Was pulling the Arctic Cat off of the.
I think I'm thinking, but I'm thinking of the one that I think you were on your new Polaris, one of the first times you were out on your new Polaris, and you guys were coming through Anderson Watson, and there was like open creeks and stuff there, and you bounced up, and you said something silly like just like a pro or something like that.
Yeah, it was just like a pro. Yeah, just like a pro.
And how many views did that little edit get on your reel? It was an Instagram reel, I think it was.
600,000 or 700,000. I mean, it just went.
It was nuts.
Yeah. Like, and that was back when our page, it's crazy now, it has 1,000 followers, so now we can say back when it had 80 followers. It's only been a few months. Anyway, back when we only had like 80 followers, I had that blown up, was like, whoa, what the heck is going on? This is cool.
Yep. So. And then talk a little bit more, maybe Ryan, why don't you go next? Talk a little bit more about the podcast, the format, what you guys are doing, kind of how you guys come up with topics, and kind of, maybe one of you, and I'll maybe bounce it then. Like, why don't we start there? Like, just, how are you guys kind of thinking about topics, and, what do you bring up when you're recording it, and the setting you guys are at? You guys are in your shop usually. But yeah, tell us a little bit about the podcast part of it.
Yeah. So, I mean, we like to talk about current events, what's going on in snowmobiling that week or whatever the case is. Usually what happened the weekend before, what's going to happen the next weekend. Yeah. Cause that's kind of how most people, they work during the week and they go snowmobiling on the weekends. And so, that, and then, just current events. And, I'd say another thing is that it wouldn't be easy if you had to keep coming up with topics.
Yeah.
But like me and Norman, for whatever reason, I don't know why, can go on a 6-hour road trip and never stop talking and never get bored of each other and just have a great conversation the whole entire 6 hours.
Yeah.
So we could literally sit in that. I mean, what's funny is after the podcast is over, we
You just keep
usually
talking.
talk for 2 more hours after that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, yep.
Uh,
That's not a
it's
joke. Sometimes we'll even turn the camera back on.
That's
yeah.
hilarious.
So so the setting is in my shop with my 2 sleds behind us,
Yep.
and it's not a fancy shop or anything. It's just a little shop,
Yep.
and yeah, I just thought that'd be kind of cool. Like I said, we are gonna try to do them. Our next one will be outside in Norman's Field with Mount Baker in the background. So
Yep. Nice. Norman, tell me a little bit about maybe one of the podcasts you've done. Like, what was maybe your favorite show, your favorite topic? And tell us why. Like, what's kind of been your favorite so far?
Oh, man, I hate to say it, but one of our favorite ones we had to take down for reasons that I
this is
can't
juicy.
really say online. It's not. It wasn't like a big deal.
tell anybody? Oh, jeez.
It's a long story. I'm not going to tell everybody, but I did have to take one of them down, and it was with one of the mechanics at one of our dealerships, and
Oh, gotcha.
And we want to revisit that, and we are going to at some point. So I'm not
Gotcha.
gonna. I'm not gonna. Yeah.
But you were doing
Not gonna go any further on
shop
that.
talk, right?
Yeah, it's shop talk. I mean, and being that I used to be a mechanic and now I sell tools, I mean, that's all I do all day is shop talk. I'm really good at it.
Yeah.
So you want to talk mechanics, we can talk mechanics all day long. I mean, it's just, I'll go on and on.
That's
So,
awesome. That's awesome.
yeah, that one flowed really nice. And, pretty much anytime we start talking about like broken sleds, it's always a good time.
And guess what? We're in the
fun to
snowmobile
talk some
industry.
smack.
They all break.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They're all pieces of crap. I mean, I even said that in one of our first podcasts, how much I hate Polaris and, all the stop rides and recalls. And, everybody talks about how much they hate Polaris, but they still go out and buy one. And, well, I did exactly that. Like, not even a podcast later.
So snowmobiling in general, I think, is a love-hate relationship. Like I love my sled, and then there's days I hate my sled. Right? It doesn't matter what brand it is. And I'm like you guys. Like I've owned most every brand out. Literally, I've owned like Polaris, Arctic Cat, Yamaha, Skidoo, like all of the above. And they've all treated me well,
Yamaha,
and they've all let me down. Yamaha? Oh yeah, they don't make snowmobiles anymore. That was back in the a year ago or so, way back in the day when they used to make snowmobiles. So.
Yeah.
Awesome. So Ryan, you had brought up the concept of like these ideas of safety, and you've brought this up to me a bunch of times too. Where hey John, avalanche safety is really important. I get it, but there's so many other things that I think happen more frequently, and you could list off like a dozen different things. But I know you and Norman specifically, both like we all have. Like I've had issues, I've had incidences that have happened too. But a couple of you guys, both of you guys have had individually different incidences in the past that you've had either close calls you've had accidents or whatnot. And I think, let's highlight a few of those and talk about maybe, in your experience, like, what happened, what did you learn from it, and what do you do differently now, like, and kind of thing too. And so Ryan, I'll let you pick the topic, but I know we talked in our pre-show about one or two different items that we could talk about, but I'll let you pick which one you want to go for and we'll dive into it.
Well, I just think you can kind of almost put tree wells and creek opening / ditches in one category.
Yeah.
And people die every year in tree wells. It happens really quick. You don't think about it. And next thing you know, you're pinned in a situation where you can't move, you can't breathe. You probably can't reach your radio, and probably nobody saw you.
Yeah.
And there's just not any real formal education on this or anything, I think. And I just feel like in Western Washington, I think that the avalanche danger, this is just my personal opinion, it might not be correct. But I just think with the heavy, wet snow that the avalanche danger is not as bad as it is in other areas that I've been to, where it's real dry, puffy snow and steeper terrain. And so I think that the avalanche danger is definitely there. You definitely have to be aware. You definitely have to look at the reports and all that. But I just feel like equally as important and equally as dangerous is other tree wells and creeks, open creeks, and,
Yeah.
and things like that.
Yeah, I think and you're right. There's no formal training for those things. Like I think you think about avalanche training to some degree. There's a little bit of a science to it, right? Like there's no science to tree wells other than that it's a vacant hole in there that you better stay the hell out of, right? And it's that simple. And then creeks is the same thing too. And Norman, why don't we talk a little bit about maybe your recent issue you had? I mean, I think that was something we talked about in the pre-show. Was you have had one of these incidences recently where you got pinned under your sled, right? Can you build up a little bit to like the day that it happened, like how kind of what led up to it, go from there, and we'll kind of walk through it, and I'll kind of interject as I need to kind of make sure we get the story through it. So
Yeah. So it's like a POW day. Was it a POW day, Ryan? I can't remember it.
I mean, it was a medium okay day.
It was a
I mean,
medium okay
it was
POW
a
day.
good day. We had fun. It was towards the end of the day.
Towards the end of the day at Anderson, and we were just screwing around trying to find a little bit of new area that's still within bounds down kind of off the road.
Yeah.
And so Sean and I went down that way, and because there's like an old logging road, it goes out to an old landing, and we'd figured out, okay, that dead ends. We're going to turn around and go back and play in the trees where it's a little more open over here.
I went to the warming up. They went down this road. I said, I'm going to go get the fire started. This is the end of the day.
Yeah. So how many riders total in your group that day? Three?
Just three.
Yep. So Ryan went back to the warming hut. You and another rider were together in theory, right? So take us from there.
Yeah. So I turned around. I had enough room. My sled's shorter. I had enough room to turn around in this one spot, so I turned around there. And he went down the road a little ways to turn around his 163. I was like, I saw the spot in the trees, and I'm like looking back. I'm like, okay, he's turning around. He can see me. I'm gonna go up this way and dive off into the trees, but I'm gonna wait for him like right after this tree.
Yeah.
And just to like, one of our group rules is in our riding group is you don't go anywhere unless someone can see you.
Yeah.
That's like the golden rule, because that's how you end up in a tree well. Or in my case in a ditch.
A ditch.
So anyway, so there's like this nice crossing like right before the ditch, and then it goes up in between two trees. And my sled decided it wanted to go for a tree. I wanted to go between the trees. It wanted to go to the tree, and I bailed because I'm like, crap, like I'm gonna smoke this tree and get really hurt. And I don't know why I bailed off downhill. It just one of those things, that you think back and you're like, what the heck were you doing, you idiot? So I bailed off downhill, and I look up, and I didn't have enough time to get out of the way, but my sled was coming for me. And I was like, oh shit, like I'm in a ditch, like this isn't good. So I did try to jump back out of the way, because I figured, okay, if the track hits me, that's not going to be as bad as if the front hits me, because if the front hits me, that's going to hurt. Yep. And anyway, it caught my helmet like right here, I guess other side. Depends on if you're on the screen or not. But anyway, hit me on the left side and just took me down into the ditch with it, and pinned my head under the sled and in the snow. Well, the ditch is like 6 feet down from the road, and the hill was another 10 feet above that. So, that was quite the tumble. And, this was right after that one guy was on your show that was in an avalanche. And I remember watching that show, and he was saying how quickly the snow sets up when you're underneath it. And I'm like, that is crazy to think about. Like this is my mindset when I'm watching the show, is like, that's crazy to think about. Like, I wonder, part of you kind of wonders what that feels like. And then part of you like shivers, and you're like, no, I don't ever want to feel that.
Exactly.
Well, I can tell you that it's very true. It sets up fast, and you don't get a choice. You can't move. Doesn't matter how strong you are, if you're working out or not.
Yep.
You can't move. And luckily my left arm was kind of up in the skid, and that's, a big open space. It was full of air.
Yeah.
Well, I'm pinned under the snow, and the first thought I had was, okay, I got to calm down my breathing because I'm hyperventilating.
Yeah.
I got to calm down because I know that's using everything. That's my lifeline is breathing. And, that's one thing I want to tell people is like, if you get caught in something like this, the first thing you need to do is just kind of, I don't want to say wait it out because that just sounds messed up, but
Yeah.
you kind of need to, so that way you can get your bearings, gather where you're at, and what direction you're facing, and then you can kind of figure out from there what you need to do, or if you're just effed, And I got lucky enough to where the sled landed sideways,
Okay.
so it pinned my head in the snow sideways, and as I'm sitting there like trying to calm down and breathe, this hand was up by my chest. Well, that's where my radio is, so I got lucky there. I can grab my radio. That was really lucky. Other hand, I can move around in the skid, and I'm like, okay, that's good. Don't know what I'm going to do with that yet. Well, then my eyes started to, dilate, and I can see that there's a little bit of light right in front of me in the snow. And I remembered from that guy in the show, he said, I just started digging.
Yeah.
And so that's what I did. I just started digging, and I was like, I need to get some air. Like,
yeah.
So I took this hand and punched a hole through, and I did it. And dude, it was so hard to get that snow out. Like, it's incredibly hard to get that snow out because there's nowhere for it to go. So it just packs in. But I did eventually get an air path this way. And then I was like, okay, well, I wonder if I can reach over and feel the skid because I know it's right here. And I could. So I started digging with this hand and got a little bit of air. And then I called on the radio for help. But I was so panicked that it sounded like I was having fun. According to Ryan, he's like, I can't tell.
Are you dying or are you having
fun?
Yeah,
I heard a panic call, and I've heard that same, that same voice when he was like really excited about something. So I wasn't, and I didn't hear what he said. So, and then about, 30 seconds later, the other guy in our group radioed and said, he's buried under the sled. We need help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, down
So
there.
so Sean had turned around and of course saw, luckily I ride a bright orange Chaos. So, you can't really miss it. And he saw my sled and first thing he did was step on my head, which was nice.
Well, that'll teach you. What are you doing down there?
Yeah, and I was like trying to talk to him, like, Sean, that's my head, stop. But then I realized he can't hear me through this hole. Like it's muffled out.
Yep.
And but yeah, no, they by the time Sean had got the sled off me, Ryan had showed up and they got me unburied, got my helmet off, and I was sitting upside down like, oh, this is not very cool. I don't like this.
Yeah.
So,
and if I can say something here too,
sure. Yep.
So just to set the scene, picture a road, a trail, and then like a ditch that's maybe 6 feet deep. That's basically a creek underneath of it. There's a creek going, but you don't know that, right?
Yeah.
And then a steep bank that goes up maybe 15 feet. And he was up on the steep bank and then came down, and then he was under his sled. So his sled was up here, and then the sled was down in the hole. So, and it was, there's worse things. I've seen scarier things. But so ironic that it's like, we're always talking about this, and it's like literally like 2 feet off the road.
Yeah.
Like your wife or girlfriend could have done that. Well, probably not, because she probably wouldn't have gone, up the steep bank.
Gone shooting for the trees, yeah.
But it was one of those deals where the ditch looked like it was maybe 2 feet deep, but when you actually get in, when you actually get in it, it's like 12 feet deep.
Yeah.
So it's
And the thing is, like, what was it? It was like one ride before that. We'd seen another guy in a ditch in a similar situation in, just like a mile up the road. Yeah. And, we're pretty sure the kid ended up breaking his wrist, but,
wow.
Yeah, they slammed into the ditch wide open throttle on an old RMK. And, it's just there's so many things out there that can get you killed, and luckily I have really good friends in our golden rule and our riding group, because without that, I mean, I would have been there a really long time digging.
Yeah.
I mean, I probably would have made it out of that, but it could have been way worse too. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
but I just remember sitting under there, and I like I said, I had enough room to get this hand over, and I'm like trying to push up on the skid, and there's nothing you can do when you're upside down. I mean, you lose all your leverage. So, and what was it the day before? I think, we knew someone that ended up upside down in a tree well too. So
the weekend before, another friend had a really bad, I mean, close call. And I mean, thank God that he's still alive, but, and that was a tree well incident. So, I mean, it's just, it happens all the time. I mean, people die every year from it. And,
Yeah. Well, Ryan, there was another incident too. We didn't talk about it ahead of time, but I remember seeing in one of your videos that you were on your skidoo and you were going up this pretty decent, nothing crazy, but like a pretty decent hill climb, and under the snow was a stump under the snow, right? Can you tell us about that incident and how it impacted you personally and how it affected your sled and what you did to get off the mountain that day? Because that had the potential to be a pretty dangerous situation too. But again, it's another one of those quote unquote hidden dangers that we all deal with every day when we're out on the mountain. So tell us about that story again.
Well, yeah, we were over in Yakima, and Norman went up this. Well, I said, "Hey, let's hit this hill," and he went up first. And I'm trying to get him on my GoPro. Well, he's going a whole lot faster than I had planned on going, so I'm going faster than I had planned on going just to keep him in my view of my GoPro. Yeah. And it was a steep hill, and you had to go fast anyway. I mean, it was pretty steep.
Yeah, it was definitely steep.
Yeah, it was steep, and it was steeper than it looked on video. Well, anyway, last minute, there's this tree that's like maybe 4 to 6 inches in diameter that somebody had cut off, that's sticking out of the ground about 4 inches. And I'm doing 30 miles an hour. I can't miss it. And so, because Norman missed it, but I'm trying to not hit his line, right? When you try to not hit his line, then what's going to happen? You're going to end up, there's a reason why he went around something that I didn't go around.
Yeah.
And so then, I hit it, and I'm on this steep hill, and I go flying over the handlebars, which I do that, at least once a year anyway.
I mean, it's good practice to go flying over the handlebars. I mean, it keeps you nimble.
I mean, you've got a great video of me doing that out on that lake.
I know, right? And I this year have gone over the handlebar at least 2 or 3 times this year. Just recently, I think I went flying, cartwheeling over the handlebars. It's just what we do.
I do it at least once a year. But so anyway, but the weird thing is, I mean, I caught some pretty good air. I'm in the air for 2 or 3 seconds. And flew probably 30 feet past my sled, and it was way uphill. So, and then to think about that, but and then my sled was kind of under me. It wasn't horrible. I mean, I was able to muscle my way out and get out from underneath of it. But, and then, and he was in a predicament where, I guess what I'm saying, where it could have been, just like anything.
It could have been really bad.
Yeah. I mean, he was in a spot where he got stuck or something happened.
Well, no, I was coming down and I smoked a tree that was underneath the snow as well. And my GoPro wasn't working that day, so I caught none of this.
Did you go over the handlebar too, just for good practice?
I did. Yeah. Good. I was going downhill, so I went pretty far. Anyway, back to Ryan.
Go ahead, Ryan, if you have more to share to the story. I mean, did you damage the sled, or I thought you broke your suspension or something though too, didn't you, that day?
It broke the skid shock, the center skid shock.
Yeah.
I think that's all it did was break that shock.
Were you able to ride it out easily, or do you have to tie up the shock, or what did you do to make sure you got out safe?
We just, I bring my mechanic with me every time, Norman, and so he took the took the shock out, and I'll tell you what, if you want to know what your front skid shock does on a snowmobile, take it out.
take it out and you'll notice right away.
Yeah, you'll figure it out real quick. It's amazing what that thing won't do with the. I mean, you can ride it,
Yeah.
but it's amazing. And then so when I got back, I put it up on my sled deck, and it's it's sitting like this, hanging off the sled deck, and I put a post on PNW Snowmobilers saying, "Is this how my sled should look?" And everybody's like, "Oh yeah, it looks fine. Yeah, looks great."
No, and the moral of the story is
forgetting the short bed.
Yeah. But the moral of the story is that I mean, anything can happen anytime, right? And I think being prepared is a big part of it. And I think about you guys. I mean, Ryan, you've been on the mountain for many, many years. Norman, you've been following Ryan, but I'm sure you prepared too. But let's start with Norman. Like, what do you carry with you? Kind of think of it as from safety gear. Think of it like, whether it be avalanche safety, whether it be like, beacon shovel probe, whether it be first aid kit, like if somebody were to get hurt, tools with your sled with you, ratchets, like talk me through a little bit about the things that you keep with you and your sled to make sure that you're prepared for the worst.
Yeah. So, the standard issue beacon shovel probe, everybody's got to have that. That's, avalanches are still number one, and those can help you in situations, of tree wells and ditches.
Absolutely.
Yep. I mean, I think there was a little shoveling. Yeah, there was a little shoveling when I was in the ditch. So to get my helmet unburied, and then I do carry first aid kits in my pack. So it's on me, not on the sled.
Yep.
So I can get to it if I get ejected. I carry a knife. I mean, people underrate the power of having a knife and some rope. I mean, you can do a lot with a knife and some rope. So I also have a little bit of paracord in my pack as well.
Nice.
As far as like tools go, I mean, I really need to get on that. And we're partnering with Mountain Lab Gear this year, and I think I'm gonna do their toolkit. Even though I am a tool dealer, it's a little bit of bit of contradiction there, but
But I actually use their toolkit in my tunnel bag too. It works awesome. It's nice and slim. It fits in the back of the bag. Doesn't weigh way too much compared to a lot of tools and stuff. And it's come in handy more than once. I mean, if I'm not working on my own sled, I'm working on somebody else's sled. It seems like with it. So.
Yeah, exactly. And next year my sled will be a year old, so guaranteed something's going to break on the mountain. I'll need to work on it next year for sure.
Nice.
I mean, it's so I'm going to need to do that and step that up. But otherwise, I'm pretty minimalist. I don't have a whole lot on me.
There you go.
So,
Ryan, anything you want to add to the list of things that he's already covered that you carry maybe in addition to or different than what he's carrying?
Oh, hold on. Before we go to Ryan,
I'm sorry.
My suit.
Norman, you had your turn. Seriously, knock this off.
I know. My suit has built-in knee pads. That has come in handy a lot.
Yep. Yep. Is that when you're on your knees groveling to ask Ryan for help? Is that what it is for?
It's usually when I'm fixing his sled, actually.
Oh, is that what it is? You're on your knees fixing his sled?
Hey, there's a reason why I pick certain people to ride with. It's nice to have somebody that's A, young, that can get you unstuck, and B, is a mechanic that can fix anything.
You're a smart man, Ryan. You're a smart man. All right, Norman, permission to go to Ryan now?
Yeah.
All right. Good. All right, Ryan, your turn. Anything you want to add to the list of equipment or safety items?
Really. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure there probably is other things. I haven't really thought about everything that I carry, but I would say what I use more than I think people give credit for is rope.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah, having a good rope. It's
you
pretty
can tie
paramount.
lots of stuff. You got paracord over and over again. People use it a lot for cool things. So, Ryan, one other thought on this topic is that you are a lucky man and have an amazing bride that goes out snowmobiling with you once in a while. I've seen her sled in the shop videos. I've seen you ride her sled a couple times this year while yours was in the shop. But I know over the last few years she's been riding more and more with you. What do you think is the secret to success of getting your wife out and enjoying riding with you?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, I actually know the secret on this, at least with my wife. I took my wife snowmobiling back in the 90s, back when I had a temper and wasn't real patient, and that didn't work out real well. And then, I took her back out again, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago, and it was one of your rides that you had down at I-90. And, So I think number one is realize that what is the goal of your wife, and honestly, I don't want to be, too much one way or the other, but I feel like a big part of why your wife might want to go or girlfriend might want to go riding is the social aspect of it. And it's okay to realize that and try to, you know, make it social. But number two, so what I did was I had a sled that I didn't want anymore, and I'd heard about those Evos. This was a few years ago. Those Polaris Evos, little fan cooled 550. And it was, a lot of people would say, well, geez, why would you buy that? Because it's like so. It's not really, you can't do much with it. It doesn't have the power, blah, blah, blah. And I think the thing is, though, is that number one, it's hers. And number two is that it's made to build confidence, or those stylus sleds. Skidoo has one now too.
Yep.
But those stylus sleds are made to build confidence, and that's exactly what it did.
That's awesome.
It was a brand new sled, so it wasn't like it was an old one. It was still new. It looked nice. Yeah. Everything. It was hers. And then we took her places, and she went all the places that we went on that thing, and it went. I mean, it's just like a tractor; it'll go anywhere. So that was that, and then like I said, just trying to just make it fun and include her in all the social stuff. So.
Very good, very good. Well, thanks for sharing. So, all right. Well, I think we're getting close to covering most of the topics we were hoping to talk about tonight, but I'll go one more time back and forth here with you guys and see if there's any final thoughts or final comments that you have. Norman, let's go with you first. Any kind of final thoughts, final ideas of topics you want to cover before we start wrapping things up?
I think the thing that I want to get out to people the most is if you're having trouble riding, you're just getting started, and you're like, this sucks, I hate it. First off, reach out on the pages on Facebook, reach out on PNW Snowmobilers, reach out on
join the club.
Join the club. I mean, yep. and just get to know people, because a lot of people will take you under their wing and show Absolutely. You the ropes. And, I mean, we've had a few riders with us this year where, we've had to, help them out and help them build confidence and Absolutely. Get going good. Cause, people are intimidated by the, and don't get me wrong, I look up to people like this, like the Kasturkis of riding. I mean, they're intimidated by the constant bow ties and tricks and flips, which it's really cool stuff. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
And, but you have to work your way up to that, and that's okay. And, we, Brandon and I took out Tyler the other day, and he's still getting used to mountain riding. Yep. He's from the Midwest, and dude, I mean, it was just Brandon, Tyler, and I, and his sled was running good, and the rest of ours were running good, and we had a hero snow day at Baker, and so we went and cruised up by Big House and everything, and we got him riding really, really decent at the end of the day. He was having a lot more fun than if he was sitting at home or just playing in the meadows. So it's okay to do that, because then you can have fun and be safe, and it doesn't take a whole lot to have fun on the snowmobile. It really doesn't. I mean,
he was doing okay, and that's okay.
Yeah, it's doing okay. I mean, shoot, we were even hitting the old booter from shootout. I mean, we were hitting it backwards because it was a little safer landing. But
I think that's the core message here, though, right? It's like, don't beat yourself up, because everybody has to progress, everybody has to get better, and it's okay to be okay, as we talk about with the okay riders.
Just get out there. So. Just get out there, and then
time in the saddle will go a long way. So
be safety conscious. Don't do anything you're not extremely uncomfortable with. I do have to say that, like, I think people are afraid to step out of their comfort zone a little bit, and you kind of have to if you want to go snowmobiling and get better at it. So
awesome. Well, let's shift over to Ryan. Ryan, any final thoughts, final words, or topics we haven't touched on yet that you want to make sure we touch on before we wrap things up?
A couple things. One, John, I really appreciate you. I really appreciate what you do for the sport. And this is just tedious, long hard work that you've done, and man, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Two is on safety. Something I didn't say that I just want to say real quick is I think these 7S displays and things like this can really cause problems. Don't get too dependent on it. Try to keep eyes on the guys you're with. That's the only thing that's going to help you. And the third thing is that it's okay to be okay, and let's go ride.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'll just elaborate a little bit on that 7S display thing. You're right. It is a double-edged sword, right? Like in one aspect, it's safety because if someone were to get lost or stranded or whatever, you have the ability to kind of find them through GPS. But the reality is like if somebody's under the snow for 5 minutes or more, they're likely going unconscious. If they're under for 10 minutes or more, and you think about it, like if you're not, to your point, like if it's not eyes on the other rider, and like Norman's issue that he had here where he was in the ditch, I mean, had he not been able to call on the radio, the likelihood it was 7S display or not, like you being in the warming hut, you weren't watching your display, not that you have a 7S display anyway, but but on the other Polaris rider, by the time he got turned around and by the time he figured out, he might have rode right by you, not realizing you were kind of half buried in the snow, right? And by the time he got to the warming hut and turned around, like easily 10 minutes could have gone by, and then he might have looked at his display to see, well, where are you? And by then it might be too late. You're right. And so it can be, I agree with you, Ryan. It can be a little bit of a false sense of security, but also not a bad thing to have. It's kind of like an airbag, right? Like you can't go around with an airbag pack thinking you're invincible now because you have an airbag pack, right? Like you still have to use good decision, good judgment. You can't just go riding an avalanche train without knowing what's going on. Again, the tools are there to enhance the experience, not to define the experience, right? So
it's like wearing a seatbelt on an airplane.
If the airplane goes down, it's not probably going to help you, right?
No, yeah. Well, and those 7S displays, I mean, they've been glitching out. I mean, that's a thing that you see in all the YouTube videos now too. Is like, next thing you know, wife's in the background. Sorry.
All good.
Say hi. Oh, you're gone. All right. Yeah, no, they've been glitching out quite a bit lately and needing warranty, which Polaris has been so kind as to warranty them for people, and even if we're talking about warrantying gauges, even the base gauges go bad, as I come to find out.
That can happen.
Multiple times, a lot.
Bummer.
Actually. Yeah.
All right. Well, with that, guys,
watch out for those 0-mile sleds.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you guys for coming on. Thank you for what you're doing. I mean, it's again, I really, it was one of the, you guys know, like I started watching your shows right away. I was in the comments and liking it and appreciating and sharing it out. And, it's one of those things where I think a lot of people who are out here trying to create content will sometimes look at others as competition and like, oh, I can't help that, whatever. I saw what you guys are doing and I loved it. Right away, I got involved. I shared it. I encouraged you guys. Offered to bring you on the show at some point in time when you're ready for it, and want to highlight it. Right. And so, where can people find you guys if they want to follow the OK Riders? Ryan, why don't you give us some of the handles? Actually, Norman.
Let's give it to the kid.
All right, Norman. Give us the handles. Where can we find you guys?
At OK Riders 2023 on Instagram and TikTok, OK Riders on Facebook, and OK Riders on YouTube.
And it's spelled out OKAY Riders.
Yeah, OKAY. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. Sounds good. And I think after the show's done here, we'll have the Facebook page for sure tagged in there. Norman or Ryan, you guys, either one of you can go into the comments afterwards and just add any links you want to in the comments, and people will be able to find them and see them that way too. So, cool. Well, I wrap up the show every single time, every single way, and I know, Ryan, my good buddy, you'll appreciate this more than anybody. God bless you all, and live large. Everybody have an amazing night. So, talk to you later.
Thank you, John.
Bye.